What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Mike, and today's video is going to be about 6 bounce back candidates with elite upside. These players may have been injured, had some changes to their current team, or flat out sucked last season. But before we jump into this video, make sure you click that link in our description to get access to all of our content channels. If you want access to our premium fantasy hockey tools, including projections, rankings, our draft sheet, and more, head over to our Patreon. Without further ado, let's break down the top 6 bounce back candidates. We are starting this video off with no one other than Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights. From feuds with the coaching staff and management to a terrible back injury that required surgery and a long period of missed time, Eichel had a terrible start to what could have been a phenomenal career. Just 25 years old, Eichel finally got some games under his belt. In 34 games with Vegas in his illustrious return, Eichel scored 14 goals and 25 points, adding 8 power play points and 133 shots. Promising signs for Eichel because we really had no idea what to expect. Despite the short season, Eichel was still on pace to score 34 goals and take well over 300 shots. Although we can't safely project him for 82 games, it shows his true talent that Eichel can flash. Going back to the earlier parts of his career, Eichel was dominant. Back in 2017-18, Eichel was a top 10 pick in some leagues, scoring well over a point per game, and he even reached the 300-shot milestone in just his 22-year-old season. In the last 34 games of the season, Eichel ranks 5th in the league for shots, 22nd for individual Corsi for, and 27th for individual scoring chances for. He shows flashes of his elite upside, but you have to remember, prior to this season, Eichel played just 89 games in the previous 2 years. He's on a new team, which means he has to learn new systems. I like Eichel this year, and if he can stay healthy, he has top 25 upside. At ADP 43, it is a risk, but it could pay off handsomely. Moving on to the next bounce back candidate, we have Victor Olofsson of the Buffalo Sabres. Olofsson was a big-time sleeper in 2019 after he skated alongside Jack Eichel in training camp, and those who drafted him pretty much drafted a league winner. Olofsson scored 20 goals and 42 points in 54 games in his first campaign, adding 17 power play points and 120 shots, going on to win Rookie of the Year. He followed that up next season with 32 points in 56 games, a bit worse of a showing, but the Sabres were atrocious in 2020. Last year, Olofsson was drafted in about the 10th round, and after an extremely bad start, he was quickly dropped by most fantasy owners. Luckily, those with diamond hands, not my AMC owners in here, saw a huge turnaround in Olofsson's game. After shooting just 6.9% pre-All-Star break, Olofsson's shooting percentage found its way back to the mean, and he managed to score 15 goals and 28 points in his last 36 games. Although unlikely to sustain that for a full 82-game season, he was on a 35-goal, 65-point pace in the second half. Now, this can be attributed to a few reasons. One, the Sabres actually got hot near the end, with Tuck returning and Tage Thompson continuing his dominance. They were actually kind of competitive. And 2, his shooting percentage was almost half of his career average, meaning some luck was bound to happen. I like Olofsson this season. For those in 14 to 16 team leagues, I think a late round flyer can pay off huge if he reaches his ceiling. We are now shifting from forward to goaltender. The next bounce back candidate for this season is Elvis Merzlikins. Another Rookie of the Year winner, Elvis was seemingly unstoppable in his short 2019 season. He posted a 13-9-8 record, a .235 goals against average, and a .923 save percentage. People were all over him going into the 2020 season where, despite injury, he actually had a pretty good season. 8-12-5 record, a .916 save percentage, and a .277 goals against average. But wow, if you drafted him in 2021, he was quickly placed on the waiver wire. 27 wins, 23 losses, a .907 save percentage, and a very disappointing .322 goals against average. For qualified starters, Merzlikins last season ranked 34th for save percentage, 48th for goals against average, and 53rd for expected goals against. No bright spots here for Merzlikins, but let's break this down. Columbus gave up the most shots against, the 4th most scoring chances against, and the 5th most high danger chances against. They were literally one of the worst defensive teams in the league last season, and I guess the question is now, will they be this year? The obvious change to the team is Johnny Gaudreau, and I know, your initial thoughts are, how could a 5'8" playmaker help defensively? And the answer is simple. Gaudreau is a top 10 scoring forward, which should mean offensively he's a major threat. Offensive zone time for the Jackets should increase, as should their ability to put the puck in the back of the net. Teams fare better when leading in games, and this is what Gaudreau can bring. The Jackets also added Eric Branson, and obviously he was the main reason Gaudreau signed there. Jokes aside, Gudbranson adds some depth to the struggling decor and should help them out in their own zone. A mix of young guys that should attribute to a better overall effort this year in the likes of Ken Johnson and Kirill Marchenko. If the Jackets can bounce back this season or even tighten up a little bit in their decor, Elvis Merzlikins could have a huge season. He's currently the 29th goalie off the board, meaning in 12-team leagues with 2 goalies, he isn't even being drafted. I like him as a solid goalie 2 or goalie 3 option with upside to surpass his ADP. The next bounce back candidate for this season with one of the more difficult last names is Martin Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes. Necas was taken with the 12th overall pick by Carolina in 2017, and he quickly made his way up the rankings as one of the league's more exciting prospects. In his rookie season, Necas posted 16 goals and 36 points in just 63 games, while playing just over 14 minutes per night. He took a big step in 2020, scoring 14 goals and 41 points in 53 games, on pace for 63 points as a 22-year-old. It was obvious that Carolina liked what they saw from him. He had one of the biggest ice time boosts in the league, from 14 per night to over 17 minutes. But the hype came crashing down in 2021. Necas never found his way to the team's top power play unit and struggled to stay in the top 6. He had a really poor first half, scoring just 8 goals and 22 points in 38 games, while his shooting percentage sat just below his career average at 10.8%. But things got worse in the second half. Just 6 goals and 48 points in 40 games. And do you remember me mentioning his minutes? He went from 17 minutes in 2020 to just over 15 per night in the second half of 2021. Necas is still so young at 23 years old. Ups and downs are bound to happen in his career. He's outside of the top 200 on Yahoo, meaning you have to manually search him to find him. Daily Faceoff has him projected as the second-line right winger with Paul Stastny and Svechnikov, and I can even see him getting reps at Powerplay 1. Necas has 60-plus point upside this season. His ceiling may actually be above that. You can wait on him late in your draft, and if he bounces back to 2020 levels, he can be a huge diamond in the rough for you. Another bounce-back candidate for this season is Miro Heiskanen of the Dallas Stars. We loved Miro here at FP last season, and honestly, I can admit it, he didn't really perform as we expected. I'm now questioning whether Miro will end up being a high defensive-minded defenseman rather than a solid offensive D-man that can put up 50-plus points per season. If there's ever a year to bank on him finally having that massive offensive season, this would be the one. So let's jump into the numbers. Heiskanen has not yet reached the 40-point mark in his career, although on pace to break it in 2019 and 2020, the shortened seasons made him come up a little bit short. Last year, in 70 games, Miro had just 5 goals and 36 points, 11 of those points coming on the power play. He added 156 shots and 92 blocks. Overall, a pretty poor season from Heiskanen, who has shown flashes of greatness throughout his short tenure. Now, why do I think Heiskanen is due for a bounce-back season? The most obvious answer is that John Klingberg is now in Anaheim. Klingberg took time both 5-on-5 and on the power play away from Heiskanen, and now with him on the Ducks, and the Stars will have to look to Heiskanen to lead the blue line and quarterback the top power play unit. Power play 1 is a huge factor for a defenseman to reach his point ceiling, and we're finally going to see that out of Heiskanen this season. You may be wondering, is Dallas's power play any good? Since 2020, they rank 9th in the league with 91 goals, just 10 goals outside of the top 5. They also rank top 10 in both scoring chances for and high danger chances for, meaning there's going to be a ton of opportunity for Heiskanen to rack up points. We love him again this season at Fantasy Puck. To me, his ceiling is 15 goals and 60-plus points this year. Make sure you're drafting Heiskanen. Even if he burned you last season, you may end up with a top 7 defenseman in the 8th round. Finally, to end off this video, we're looking at another forward in Brock Boeser. A down year in 2021 for Boeser, he scored just 23 goals and just 46 points, the worst production of his career, despite reaching a career high in games played. It seems like Boeser was inching closer and closer to becoming a 30-goal scorer with close to point-per-game potential. He ended up matching his 2021 goal total in 2020 and had more assists that same year in 15 less games. He was on an 82-game pace in 2020 of 34 goals and over 70 points, but fell very short of those expectations last year. For Boeser, his 1.0 goals per 60 was just about at his career low, and his 1.0 assists per 60 was by far the lowest rate of his career. Yet, his 8.9 shots per 60 was still above league average and around his career average. Boeser was still shooting at a good rate, and maybe his low production was just a case of him being unlucky in the assist column. I did some digging into Boeser's advanced individual statistics. Over the last 2 seasons, Boeser ranks 35th in individual expected goals for and 31st in individual Corsi for, meaning he's still creating chances at an elite level. At over 19 minutes average time on ice in Vancouver's top 6 and the top power play unit, Boeser can easily find a way this season to follow up his production from the previous few years. At ADP 147 on Yahoo, you can draft him in the 13th round and he could end up being 5th or 6th round value. That'll do it for our bounce back candidates video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one.